master. And to truly master the piano or any instrument, learning to read music is absolutely essential. So join our live practice session today where we're going to refine this crucial skill and elevate your musical journey to new levels. Let's get started. So this is a live session where I'm going to go over the basics of reading music and then we're going to practice together. Throughout the lesson, I'm going to be taking a look at the live chat, which we already have some people here, which is wonderful. Good morning, Maple Bob, Shirley, and Sylvia so far. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. The sound quality should actually be improved from normal, hopefully. Anyways, but let's get started. Let me know if you have any trouble hearing me or anything like that. And I want to get started here with this. So I have a question for you. This looks better. What is the third ledger line above the treble clef? Now, this is just for a way for me to kind of test to see how much you guys know already. So it's 3 ledger lines above. If you have no idea, just say, I have no idea. It's okay. It's no problem at all. It sounds good. Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. So let me know that in the chat or the comments. In the meantime, let's get on to our first topics, which is how to read notes on the staff. We're going to talk about treble clef and bass clef. So let me just get in position here. I got to move over a little bit. There we go. Very, very good. Somebody says B. We'll see if that's the right answer here in a minute. So let's talk about what this actually means. So to learn how to read music, you have to learn both the treble clef and the bass clef. So this thing, let's get this up here. That's better. So you see this thing up top, over there. Looks like a squiggly line, or not a squiggly line, but that is the treble clef all the way to the left there. And then down here is what we call the bass clef. And here is what we call the staff. There's actually 2 of them. There's a treble staff up top and a bass staff on the bottom. And a staff, by definition, has 5 lines and 4 spaces in between those lines. And depending on what line or space a note falls on, tells you not only what letter that is, but also where to play that on the piano. For instance, this is E, and specifically, it's right here, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. One thing I do want to say is that treble clef generally plays from middle C, this one right here. You can find middle C by going to the middle of your piano, finding the 2 groups of black keys right here, and going down 1 and to the left, and that's middle C. So right hand is played, and treble clef is played from middle C up this way, and bass clef is generally played from middle C down that way. Got it? So this note right here is E. Now, but I said that it started at middle C, so it's kind of weird, and we'll talk more about this in a minute. But middle C is actually this note right here. And notice how we had to go below the staff and add a line to that to figure out where we're at. And that is called a ledger line. So when you go high up or below, you need to start adding those lines. And middle C is on 1 ledger line below the staff. And remember that I said bass clef is played with the left hand usually from middle C down this way. So on bass clef, middle C is actually 1 ledger line above the staff. Now these 2 are actually the same exact note. This is where the treble clef and bass clef kind of converge, because if you go above this C in the bass clef, you start getting into the treble clef territory. Now you can have notes that are above there, but I'm just kind of showing you that if you start going like below middle C down here, you're actually starting to get into the bass clef territory. So I just want to show you that where middle C is at on the staff and on the piano, and how that correlates to both clefs. And you'll see more and more as we go along in this lesson. All right, so how's everybody doing today? Let me know in the comments. How's your piano learning journey going so far? I'll stop every like few minutes to check in on comments, but let's continue here. Okay, so to master reading music, this next part's very, very important. You have to memorize the lines and spaces of each clef, and here's how you do that. So with the treble clef, we have our 5 lines, and each line has a letter associated with it, and it's this. Hello. Sorry guys, it doesn't like me. What the? You know what? It knows that we're live. That has to be it, right? Okay, it's not like, you know what I might have to do? I might have to restart this. So I apologize, guys. I mean, it's only going to take a second. So I don't know exactly what's going on with it, but let's restart it. You know, technology is great until it's not. My dad always tells me about that. He's like, technology isn't ready for prime time, and he's been saying that for 30 years. And it never gets, in some ways it gets better, in some ways it doesn't, as you can see. Yeah, this is really struggling today. I don't know exactly what's happening, but let's get into one of these here. Yeah, we should be good. There we go. All right. Well, it's written out for us. This was on another sheet that we had. So the lines of the treble clef from the bottom to the top are E, G, B, D, and F. Sometimes we come up with a saying for these, like every good boy deserves fries, where each of the first letters of the saying corresponds to the lines of the treble clef. Now, very important, pay attention. Always when you're figuring these out, you want to go from the bottom, E, G, B, D, F, to the top. You can't do it the other way around, or you will get the wrong note. So where are these notes on the piano? Because this is very important. Remember, this bottom line E, I actually already told you was right here, right? Because it's right above middle C. And the G above that is right here. We just skipped the note on the piano. The next note, the middle line of the treble clef, is going to be 2 notes above that. So we're skipping one each time. The next note D is right here, and the next note F is right here. So to figure out the lines of the treble clef on the piano, you start from E above middle C, and then you skip every other note. And those are the notes that are written right there. All right, let's see. Somebody says, this is a comment we got. Maple Bob says, don't apologize. In 1977, you would not have this ability to reach so many people. So mind-blowing when you think about it. I totally agree. So let's take a look at this note here. Right, it's right in the middle of the treble clef. What note is that? Well, remember, bottom to top. E is the bottom, then G. This must be B, right? And you start right here on the piano, E, G, B. Let's do one more. What about this one? The top line of the treble clef. Well, remember, it's every good boy deserves fries. So that has to be E, G, B, D, F. Just like that. You can't see the top. You should be able to see it now. I'm not sure. Piano sound a little delayed, sir. Oh, man. Okay, well, let me know if you guys, we'll try to map that out later. It should be okay. I don't know what's going on here. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so long as you guys can follow along okay, we'll continue to go. All right, Shirley, please let me know what you mean a little bit. Maybe I had it zoomed in too far. You guys should be able to see that. Let me see. Hold on. There it is. Okay, you guys should be okay, I think. Hold on. All right, let's continue. We'll work out the things as we go along. Okay, now for treble clef. The treble clef spaces are F, A, and for some reason it drew a note right here, but this actually should be C, E. And it spells what word? Face. Now, where are these on the piano? Well, this F right at the bottom, somebody says I can see it fine. That's great. So we got F at the bottom, and then you skip a note to A, C, E. So this F is still a little bit above middle C. It's actually right next to that E, which was the first line of the treble clef. So these notes are F, A, C, and E. Right there. All right, what are these two notes? This one and then this one. Write it in the comments while I take a drink of water. Okay, I'm back. What are these two notes? Well, this one, bottom line of treble clef. Remember, that's that E right here. Now, what note is this one? Well, it's the top space of the treble clef. And remember, it's F starting here, A, C, E. So these are both E. And I wanted to bring this up on purpose because this is what we call an octave. So if you have an E and then an E, you know, spaced apart evenly above that, you know, they're the same note right to the right of middle C, or sorry, right to the right of that group of two black keys. And that's what we call an octave. So if you have like A and A, B and B, C and C, those are all an octave apart. Good, we got E and E. That is the correct answer. Good. You guys are catching on quickly. All right, let's continue here. What note is this one? That note, second space of the treble clef. F, A, right there. Good, octaves. You guys are getting it pretty well. Okay, I already did middle C. Oh, let's talk about bass clef. I'm glad I have these written in already. So excuse my doctor's handwriting. But these are the lines of the bass clef. They are G, B, D, F, and A. A lot of correct answers in the chat. I love to see it. So those are the lines of the bass clef. They start from G. Actually, way down here. Now, why does this G start way far away from middle C, but the first line of the treble clef was right next to middle C? So what gives? Why is this so far down? That doesn't make sense. Actually, it does. So remember I said earlier that middle C was right there, a ledger line all by itself up top. So that's where middle C is. So you can see the G that we have is way far away from that. So that's why you start down here, and then you skip every other note coming towards middle C. So you got G, first bottom line. Next line's B. Then you got D. You got F. You got A. And then finally, you have middle C. So do you guys have any questions so far about anything we're talking about? Let's continue. Okay, these spaces of the treble clef, or bass clef, excuse me. We're on bass clef. These spaces of the bass clef are as follows. They're A, C, E, and finally G right there. A, C, E, G. Delay in piano sound I'm hearing. I'm going to fix that. I apologize for that. I will work on fixing that soon. I'm trying something new with the sound settings. So I'll tell you what. Let's continue a little bit because I think you guys can still follow along, hopefully a little bit. I do kind of, just give me a second here, guys. it wouldn't be a day without okay. Oh, okay, so it's a little bit delayed. So I hit it first and then it comes on. Okay, sorry about that, guys. We're just going to have to deal with that for now, and I will work on fixing that for next time. I apologize. All right. I can follow. Good. Excellent. All right. All right, guys, let's continue. Sorry for the interruptions, but technology does what technology wants. I even tested this ahead of time, and it was perfect, so I don't know what's happened here. Anyway, we have this F here. That's an F. I don't know why I got distracted. Sorry, guys. All right, so A, C, E, G. Those are the bass clef notes. All right, let's practice a few of these. It looks like this was from another video I did, but let's take a look. Let's take a look at this note. This note right here, what note is that? Bass clef. Remember, bottom to top. Let me know in the comments. A, C, E, G, right? So this must be A, C. So we got A, C, E, G right there. Perfect. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 4 notes. Let's move to, you know what, this is fine. I'm going to draw 4 notes, and you're going to have to tell me what they are. And we'll do treble clef first. So, you have, let's set a time. You have 10 seconds before I tell you what the answers to these. So 10, 9, 8, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hopefully you got them by now, but the answers are B. So right here. F is the next one. And then you got a space of the treble clef, A. And then you have D. Now, if you couldn't get them that fast, that's okay. That's something that we will work up to. Let's do 4 in the bass clef. Okay, what 4 notes are these? Take a second. I'll give you 10 seconds. 10, 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Here we go. The 4 notes that we have are G, top space of the bass clef, then C, then E, and then a D right there. All right, very good, guys. You are getting the right answers pretty much. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, very good. Well, let's continue. Okay. Now, we did bass clef. We did treble clef. It's all about memorizing the lines and spaces. And actually, I do want to show you guys one thing here, and that is this. So this is musictheory.net. Actually, let me just walk you through it. Just go to musictheory.net, especially when we're done here. You know, don't leave our page here. You want to go to exercises, and you want to go to note identification. So this is where you're going to practice on your own. Right? What note is this? Quick. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is an E. So you fill out E right there. But what I want you to do in addition to that is I want you to do this. So there's E right there, right? Now where on the piano is that E? And it is right there. Perfect. So what I want you to do is not only find the letter, but find where it corresponds on the piano. So there's E. Let's go to, this is what I want to show you, and then we'll move on. So you want to click on this little gear up here and make sure that you only select the range of the notes you know. So if you're not good with ledger lines yet, which we'll talk about, you can practice here on this page. You can practice whatever notes that you know. Just make sure that the range is set to something you're comfortable with. So I would start out with just the bottom line and the top line. That'll include all the spaces in between. And then as you get more comfortable, maybe bump them up, you know, oops, a ledger line. So there's controls on each side for each of these to something like that. And then when you get comfortable with that, you bump this one up too, and you bump this one down too. So that extends the range each time when you are practicing these. Okay. Let me know any questions you have so far. But in the meantime, we actually have more, actually much more to go through, which is okay. That's good. Okay, we've done treble practice. We've done some bass practice. So let's continue. Question 2 I have for you guys is I really, these questions really help me understand you guys a little bit better. It helps me make better videos for you guys. So I'm just curious more than anything, what instruments do you play? And I assume most of you play piano because that's what the channel is about. But I just want to know, do you play any other instruments? Or maybe you sing, whatever it may be. Okay, so I've mentioned ledger lines an awful lot during this video. And the first question I asked you guys in the beginning was, what is the ledger line? What is the note 3 ledger lines above middle C? And we're about to answer that very question. So a ledger line, like if a note is high up or far below on the staff, you're going to need a ledger line to extend the staff in either direction. So and I showed you that earlier. And here are the ledger line rules. I spent a lot of time on this this slide, so I hope you find it helpful. So if you notice, there are like 4 boxes here, 4 kind of diagrams. You got this one, this one, this one, and this one, and they each correspond to each of these rules. So this one here corresponds to the top rule here. You may want to screenshot this, if you know how to do that, this slide, because this is going to be immensely helpful for ledger lines. Or maybe you can just memorize it, because here are the rules. Rule number 1 is the lines of a staff, E, G, B, D, F, in the case of treble clef, as we can see right here, are equal to the spaces going up off the staff starting from the top space. So you notice how this one from bottom to the top says E, G, B, D, F, and then this one from bottom to the top says E, G, B, D, F. So they are the same notes. However, they are an octave apart. So you remember earlier that I told you that, you know, you can have the same note, just, you know, an octave apart. And that's what this means. So you have E, G, B, D, F, the lines of the treble clef, and the spaces of the treble clef starting from that top space going into the ledger lines are E, G, B, D, F. So you use that to your advantage. You know, when you're counting these and you're figuring out these ledger lines, which we'll do in a minute, we will use this little tactic to figure them out a bit quicker. So that's what I recommend you do. Okay, rule number 2 is this. The lines of a staff are equal to the spaces going down below the staff, starting from the bottom space, but in reverse order. So you can see from the second little diagram here, we still have E, G, B, D, F, but now we still have E, G, B, D, F, but now we're actually going in the opposite direction, F, D, B, G, E. Now, why is that? Well, that's because the top or the bottom space of the treble clef is the top note of the pattern, right? So there's F. The next note down has to be D, B, G, E. So that's why we go in reverse order, because we're actually going down on the piano instead of from that top space going up. So you got to remember that. If you don't, you'll get them wrong. Okay, and this is true for bass clef, by the way. All these rules, except they apply to the bass clef lines and spaces. So I would master first the lines and spaces on each clef, and then start to use this tactic so you don't get confused. But the next ledger line rule, a tongue twister, the spaces of a staff are equal to the lines going off the staff starting from the top line. So spaces now are equal to the lines just going up off the staff. So these notes, F, A, C, E, are equal to these notes, F, A, C, E, just like that. The inverse is true. This is the last ledger line rule. The spaces of a staff are equal to the lines of the going down below the staff, starting from the bottom line. Let me try it again. The spaces of a staff, in this case FACE, are equal to the lines going below the staff in reverse order, starting from that bottom line. So E, C, A, F. And you can see that with this bottom diagram right here, E, C, A, and then F. You got it? Any questions about that? Again, I would screenshot this right here and save it in your notes. We're going to start doing that, I think, into the future. So now we are ready. Are you ready to practice ledger lines? So let's try it out. Let's see if we can figure this out on the spot. So just give me a second. Let me do, there it is. There it is. Okay. What note is that? Okay. Remember that this is on a line, right? And it's lines going down below the staff. So this would be the first line, second line, and then that's 3 lines down. Now, what is the rule? Well, the lines are equal to the spaces, right? On the staff. What are the spaces on the staff? A, C, E, G. And remember, this is in reverse order. So this is G, E, and what note is this? Let me know in the chat. This is C, of course. So we figured out pretty fast where this was. So if this G in the bass clef is right here, we're going to skip down to E and skip down. That is where that C is. So it takes a little bit of thinking. You're going to maybe have to write this out at first to kind of remember, but that's okay. You're allowed to do that. And yeah, you guys got it right. It's C. Perfect. So you guys are following along just great. Okay, what note is this one? Well, it's on a space. And remember, the rule is like it's always the opposite thing, right? So if we're on a space, the spaces are equal to the lines. So G, B, D, F, and sorry for my terrible handwriting, but A at the top, right? And it's starting from the top space, which would be right there. So there's G. There's B, there's D, and this one must be F. All right, good morning, Tim. I play keyboard. Good morning, everybody. Baritone, ukulele. We'll get to some of these comments here in a minute, but I just want to continue. There's a lot to cover today, but we're making good progress now. Okay, so that F is going to actually be right there because it's G, B, D, and finally F. What note is this? So this is the ledger line, first ledger line above the treble clef. Now the first question you want to ask yourself is this. Is this on a line or is this on a space? And the answer, of course, is it's on a line. The line's going right through it, right? It pierced it. Ugh. I guess that's too violent. But anyway, it's on a line. So remember, the lines are equal to the spaces. Sorry, I'm being too silly. F, A, C. So remember, those are F, A, C, E, like that. Just like that. Now, remember, it starts from the top line. So this is F. Therefore, that note must be A. You guys got it before I did, so that note is A. Perfect. You guys are getting it. I can tell. Now, if you're somebody sitting at home and you're thinking, man, I'm not getting it like everybody else, do not worry. It's going to be just fine. You don't have to worry about that. I would just start from the beginning of this video. You might have to watch it a few times. Start with the reading on the staff and then work your way up to this. You might have to watch it a few times if you're a beginner, but it seems like a lot of people are catching on very quickly, which is amazing. So you guys are great. So let's do this. Oh, I want to answer this one question. So I said in the very, 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 very beginning of the lesson, it's in the pinned comment if you don't believe me. You might be like, no, Tim, you're making this up. I said in the very first question, what is the note 3 ledger lines above middle C, which would actually be right there? Let me know. Do you know the answer? Can we figure it out now? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. No, I'm just kidding. The lines of the treble clef, remember, are equal to the spaces, right? This is lines, so we're looking at this still. F, A, C, E. Starting from the top line, right? F, A, C. Therefore, we have figured out the question of the day, which is, what note is that? And the answer is actually F, A, C, E, way up there. Remember that you're starting from that top line, which is a bit further up the piano. Great, guys. You guys got it all right. So we have answered the question of the day, but we still have more. So like I said, towards the end of the video, I'll be taking a look at the chat. You know, I always kind of like have a Q&A at the end a little bit. Okay, an interval. And then I think we're actually, after this next section, we'll be close to being finished. But let's take a look at this one. Intervals. An interval is another way to read music, although I do recommend you learn to read it on the staff first, just like we did the whole lesson up until now. So an interval is the distance between 2 notes. If you have a note and then you play the next adjacent note, that is a second. So let me show you what that looks like. So say I had a note, C, and then I played the next adjacent note. So that would be D, or you could even do like C sharp if it's right next to it, right? Either of those. That is what we call a second. 1, 2. If you have a note and you skip a note, that's a third. Now, you may have heard me say the word skip earlier when I was talking about the lines of the treble clef. I was saying the E, G, B, D, F. You skip every other note. Therefore, when you're moving in lines or from space to space to space to space, you are actually moving in thirds. 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 Do you guys get it? Get it now? Okay. Well, let's continue. There are fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a fourth. There are fifths, sixths, sevenths, and there is no eighth because that is just an octave. So that's why I told you earlier, you know, from C to C, F to F, those are all octaves. All right, now, the most important part has arrived. Are you ready? We need to talk about what these look like on the sheet music, which will be very easy. Okay, let's No, there it is. Okay. Are you ready? Here it begins. What interval is that? So you have C, middle C, and then you have the next adjacent note next to it. And these are actually played at the same time because they're stacked kind of on top of one another. And that is a second. I just told you that. And I want you to notice something about even number intervals. So that's 2, 4, and 6. And what I want you to notice is this. So here's 2. Here's 4. And that's 6. Now they have a pattern between them all that's consistent, and that is they don't match. And what I mean by it is if one is a line, like the bottom one's a line, the top one's going to be a space. If the bottom one is a space, like we can just move it up here like this, the top one's going to be what? A line. And so all even number intervals, you can tell right away if it's 2, 4, 6, or 8, is if the two notes do not match. And that makes things a lot easier because you could have an interval, like this. Let me write one out here like this. And you know right away they don't match. It has to be even. And that is actually a fourth. Because a second would be so close together that they kind of like squish side by side beside each other. So those are all even number intervals. So 2, 4, 6, and then even an octave. They are far apart and they don't match. It's probably an eighth or an octave. What interval is that? Well, you have a note and you're skipping a note to the next note. So I already told you that that is thirds, right? So that's a third. Let's see if we notice a pattern with all the odd number intervals. Third, fifth, seventh, and I guess you could say a ninth right there. So the pattern is that they match, actually. So if one is on a line, the other is on a line. You know, it doesn't matter if it's 3, 5, or 7, or 9. They match. What if one was on a space? Oops, that's not what I meant to do. There you go. What if one is on a space? Well, the other one is also on a space, just like that. All right, any questions so far? You guys seem to be doing really, really well. Really happy with how you guys are picking this up. So I'm going to draw an interval, and I'm going to ask you, what interval is it? So here we go. All right, come on. What interval is this one? Let me know when you got it. So we got B, right? And then you skip a line and skip a line. So actually the first question I want to ask, and you should ask yourself, is do these notes match? And the answer is yes. So you have line and line. So it must be 3, 5, 7, right? Or 9. Well, you notice how there's also like a space in between them? Right there. Well, if you have that ever, it looks like a snowman but his abdomen is missing. That is always going to be a fifth is actually the correct answer. So some people were saying fourth, which is pretty close. You know, we're new to this. It makes sense. But remember, if they match, meaning if one's on a line, the other's on a line, if one's on a space, the other is on a space, it must be odd. So 3, 5, 7, or 9. But good, you guys are catching on. Look, Shirley got it corrected already. Awesome. All right, let's continue here. Let me ask you another one. Now, what about this one? Question the first. is, do these match? Meaning if one's on a space, is the other one on a space, or is it different? Well, they're different, right? You got the bottom one on a space, top one on a line. Therefore, these are actually even number intervals. It's kind of weird because even you would think match, just because it's even. That's kind of like how it is. Like if you have two, you have two matching things. If you have three, you have one odd one. I think you know what I'm trying to say. Like logically, you would think that even number intervals match, but they do not. It's the opposite. So these don't match, so therefore it's an even number. Is it 2, 4, 6, or 8? Let me know in the comments, and you can tell right away just by the distance, and you guys got it. Perfect this time. You have all fourths. Now, somebody who's very smart in the comments asked, isn't this a diminished fifth? And it was. The last one that we did, that is true. So you know a little bit more, I think, than what we're going to cover today. We will cover what we call interval quality. So there's actually two versions to most of these intervals, most of them. Like a second can be a whole step away, but it can also be a half step away, right? And this one's a minor second, and this one's a major. But for right now, in the scope of this lesson, and what I want you to practice, just worry whether it's 2, 4, 6, or 8, or 3, 5, 7, or 9, because those are the even and odd intervals. Let's do a few more of these. This is a good one because it uses ledger lines high up on the staff. But the good news is you don't really even have to read that top note if you don't want to. Because if you find the bottom note and then you use the correct interval, you should be able to figure out what note it is. So let's do this first. Question 1. Do these match? And the answer is no. One is on a line, the top one is on a space, right? So it must be even numbers if they don't match. Again, it's opposite of what you would think. So this can't be a second. It's too far apart. It's not even a fourth because that would be right here. So this one is actually a sixth. And the point of this is if you find this top line of the bass clef right here, A, and you just go 6 notes above it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom, you found your note, and you didn't even have to read that ledger line. So that is just one of the benefits, well, it's the main benefit, of using intervals while you read is you can, use our normal like sayings to figure them out. Every good boy deserves fries, or you just memorize it, right? You figure out what line or space you're on, and then you can use your interval to figure out the other notes. Let's say I have an insane note pattern like this, right? These are 4 notes. And with intervals, I can read them nearly instantly because I know that bottom space of the bass clef is this A right here. We have a second above that. I know them because they're like sandwiched together. You have a third above that, the second note up, right? Because it's line to line. And then you have a fourth. So it doesn't sound too pretty, but I was able to figure it out much, much faster than being like, oh, is this an A? Oh, what's the next one? Good boys. Oh, that's B. The next one is D for deserves. And then, oh, G. It takes too long, right? So this is where you want to build up to using your intervals. Now I have a special assignment for you on what I want you to do next. Are you ready? So, do you remember? There it is, the website I gave you, musictheory.net. Here, we're going to do it again. Musictheory.net. You click on exercises because I want you guys to know what to do. And you want to go to interval identification this time. Before we were doing note identification. I want you to do intervals. What interval is this? Quick, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That is a second is so easy to spot because like I said, when they're stacked on top of one another, they have to be side by side. So that's a second. Let's do 3 of these. Oh, what is this one? This one's tricky. They don't match, right? Space to line. So that must be an even number interval. They're pretty far apart, so I'm actually going to go and say an octave. And that's surely what it is. What is this? Quick, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This you should know instantly. A third. So the point is you want to practice this each day, you know, along with the note practice that I gave you, the reading practice. I want you to practice this. Honestly, I think the default settings are just fine. Just make sure it's set to like whatever you're comfortable with. The thing is like with intervals, even if the range is really high, you should be able to figure out distance-wise, you know, like what the interval is. You don't need to necessarily figure out what the note is. So I think that range is okay. And yeah, just make sure that your settings are set appropriately. I wouldn't set any key signatures just yet. That's not something we're getting into today. But there is more to intervals than what I told you today, in that there's like usually 2 versions, maybe sometimes 3 of each interval. And we'll go over that another time. Oh, very important. That's what I wanted to find. See how it says require quality? Do not have that set to on, because if you have it set to on, you notice it gets a lot more complicated. Now we have to figure out that this is actually an augmented fourth. And you might not know that. You might have no idea what that is. That looks like a diminished fourth. Wouldn't that just be a third? Wait, what? Is there a diminished fourth here? That shouldn't exist. It's definitely not. It's A to D flat. But that's not a what? Oh, they do have diminished fourth. Oh, weird. Okay, never mind. I got confused myself for a second. The point is, though, is you guys do not, at least where a lot of you are at in this, do not want quality selected. So make sure that that is off. So then you just have to be like, oh, that's a second. Boom. And then once you practice that a little bit, I would say do 10 of those a day. And once you start getting them perfect each time, I want you to actually start finding them on the piano. In fact, if you can do that right from the jump, do that, because that will help you correlate what we're talking about on the sheet music and translating it to the piano, which is probably the most important thing we could do. Okay, guys, I got some good news for you. This part of the lesson, interval practice, we just did it. Write out series of 4 intervals. Okay, we just kind of did that anyways. Question 3 is any questions so far about reading notes on the staff or intervals? So I'll open it up for questions for now. While we are getting some questions to roll in, maybe we want to do a final practice. We're going to use this website to do that. So let's do this. And what we're going to do is, actually, I need to go back to the note identification one. And I'm going to set it to, we're going to go up off the staff. So we're including everything here, ledger lines, what have you. Do your best. You know, like I said, you might have to watch this lesson a few times to really get it, but that's okay. Now, what note is this one? Well, remember, it's on a line, and it's 3 lines below middle C. So remember, the lines going down below the staff are equal to the spaces on the staff. What are the spaces on the staff? F, A, C, E, right? And you're starting from the top, or sorry, the bottom line of the treble clef, but that's the top of the pattern. So it's E, C, A. Therefore, that note is A. And that's how I figure it out in my mind. Okay, this one should be a bit easier. And look, everybody's getting the right answers, or mostly there. This one is the 3rd space of the treble clef, and this has to be F, A, C right there. All right, we'll do like 4 of each. This one should be a little bit easy. It's bottom line of the treble clef. I told you earlier directly that it's right there. So not a lot of thinking going on that one, but it may take you more time, you know, since you're probably just starting out. Now, what about this one? This will be the last treble clef one we do. And then I'll go over final questions for today. So remember, this is on a space. The spaces, this is how the ledger line rules work. The spaces are equal to the lines, right? So the lines of the treble clef are E, G, B, D, F. And starting from the top space here, unfortunately I can't draw on it. The top space is E. And remember, you go the same lines, E, G, B. So that note must be B right there. And you guys are getting the right answer. That gives me a lot of confidence that you guys, for the most part, are figuring it out. And again, if you're kind of struggling behind a little bit, that's okay. And then, you know, you should know that one's an E. You know, especially as you practice these, you know, for a few days. All right, let's go to bass clef. And we're going to do like 3 or 4 of these. Okay, this should be easy. Come on, guys. Bottom line of the bass clef is G right there. So, again, you can review if you need. Oh, you notice how it just went down one note on the staff? Well, whatever happens on the staff correlates on the piano. So if it goes one note down on the staff, it goes one note down on the piano. Isn't that crazy? So this one's actually an F right below that. Okay, what about this one? Now, you can use your ledger line rule if you want. However, I would take a more common sense approach with this one. What is the top line of the bass clef? Remember, it's G, B, D, F, A. So once you practice it, you'll know that that's A. How far away is that A from the note that we have? Well, just one note, right? Because we're already on the top line of the treble or bass clef, excuse me. Top line of the bass clef. You move up one note, and then you are on B. Got it? All right, let's do one more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That note is, let me know in the comments. That note is A. Down there. Remember with bass clef, when you're starting lines and spaces, it's a bit further away from middle C. And that's because middle C is actually on the top of the staff, whereas it's on the bottom of the treble clef. So it's going to be a little bit of getting used to, but you'll be able to do it. And let's do this, guys. Let's figure out some things here. So I'm going to open it up to questions. You know, we're going to take 5-10 minutes for questions if we have any. You guys are just doing a terrific job, you know, most right answers. Again, if you're getting them wrong or maybe you can't get them quite quick enough, that's totally fine. You just want to practice what I outlined for you today. We have a lot of people in here today with a lot of cool engagement. I love to see this. This is so cool. Great practice site. You're welcome. When practicing a piece and the clef changes in the next measure, it is easy to play the incorrect notes if you're not looking ahead. That is true. That is very true. In fact, that's something that gets me as well. Well, to talk about that sometimes, like how to approach pieces that are double treble clef or double bass clef. That's an interesting idea. When practicing a piece, there I too. Oh, okay. I guess you were like writing it out again. Maybe you misfired there. Not worried, making notes too. All right, great, great. Never understood why it's not the same notes on the bass clef versus the treble clef. Well, guess what? Guess what, Ogre? The very next lesson that's coming out next week, I believe, unless something crazy happens, it'll come out next week. I have it almost all completed. Answers that question. The video is like the whole video explains why the lines and spaces are not the same between each clef. And I do my best to explain that for beginners. So the video that comes out in exactly 1 week from today on Saturday, which is something I want to talk about here in a minute, is exactly what you're talking about. So you will understand. I did my best to provide a good answer for you in that video. So I read your mind from the past. I'm kidding. I don't have that ability. All right, good morning, Tim. I play keyboard. Good morning, Poetic Lifestyles. Also, baritone ukulele. Wow, you guys, you guys have a broad experience with instruments. 3 years drum lessons. Almost have to be in a band to play songs, so I moved to piano. Trumpet. Played trumpet as a kid. Excellent. So you guys have, like, I'm sure there's a lot of just piano players here. Guitar. This is amazing, guys. I really like the engagement we're getting with these Saturday lessons. So a few things. I'm trying to see if I missed anybody. So a few things is I'll have to figure out that delay. That's like the main thing I'm going to have to do for next time. What bothers me is I found a setting on this software that works a bit better for the sound, but it's not working right when I do it live. So anyway, let's not get too into it. I want to give you a few announcements to maybe top off today. Number one, there is a sale going on for the courses over on my website, pianolessonsontheweb.com. In fact, and then I have some other announcements here at the end as well. In fact, I totally forgot, there's this slide here. 5 reasons you should sign up for my courses. Again, pianolessonsontheweb.com. They're great for beginners and those that have a foundation already. You can learn piano, theory, rhythm, and anything else you need to become a well-rounded musician. You can learn at your pace. You can at your own pace. It's great for like self-learners. Number 4 is better than YouTube because, a lot of people ask me like, what's the big benefit of the courses that I have over YouTube? Well, YouTube a lot of times will touch on a subject and then move on right away. Well, with the courses, you have instructional videos that you learn from, similar to YouTube, but you also have the opportunity to practice and master each topic because there's instructional I already said instructional videos. There's notes, there's assignments, and there's real sheet music to play around what you're learning to really give you like a solid understanding of everything. We also cover some topics I've never covered on the YouTube channel before. So I want to let you guys know about that. Take a look later today, pianolessonsontheweb.com. You can use code YouTube for an additional 20% off. Okay, now I have some final announcements. So if you are just in attendance today, welcome. I saw a lot of new and returning names, which I love to see. So recently, we've moved the live streams from, I think, Thursday or Friday. I think Friday to Saturday morning. It seems to be working out really well so far. I'm really happy with the engagement we're getting. And here is the schedule moving forward, because a lot of you are probably wondering, Tim, when are we meeting again? And that answer is this. Hold on, let me bring up a little calendar here. So here's the plan. Every Saturday at 10 a.m., or 10:15 a.m. my time, so Eastern Standard Time, there's going to either be a live stream or a recorded video coming out, and it's going to alternate week to week. So this was a live stream week. Next week, you're going to get a recorded video at the same time, and then the week after that, we are meeting live again, and that is actually going to be on the 12th. Wow. We're into July already. That's going to be the 12th of July. We're going to meet again. And then after that, we're going to meet again on the 26th and then August 9th. So it's every other week if you want to attend these live streams. But there is going to be something here for you every single week because the weeks in between, I have videos coming out. And next week's video, as I spoiled, is it explains why the lines and spaces are not the same between each clef. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll make it as educational as I possibly can make it. So any questions before we go? I'm trying to think if I have anything else to tell you guys. Greeting from Hong Kong. Morning, will you do a video on rhythm values? The answer is yes. You actually bring an interesting point, which is, so during the summer months, I have some videos planned that are a little bit lighter in topic. That again explains why the clefs are not the same. It's still educational, but it's not as in depth. And then what we're doing is, as we approach the fall, like end of August into September, we are going to start I'm going to start putting out different types of, different videos. You've seen some of the styles before and types, but I'm working on refining some of those video styles to come out in September. Because in September, and late August even, people start going back to school and back to work, and they get more into a mindset of learning piano. And there's certain types of content I want to come out at that time. And there's certain types of content I want to come out in the summer. That's they're a little bit different, that appeal to different types of times of year. Luis, you are the MVP of today, because we got a super chat from Luis, 20 rupees or 20, I'm not sure what R means, but thank you either way. I mean, it's let's bring this up here. Thank you so much, Luis, for the super chat. Boom. I don't know why I did that. I'm excited. This is such a great lesson for beginners like me. Thank you for your time and patience, Tim. Guys, donate if you can. This is great teaching, and he deserves appreciation. Talk about MVP. I even said you were MVP before I read that. Thank you so much. I mean, that's amazing. If you guys want to ever super chat, that's always welcomed. I've been thinking about some ideas on like what to do with the super chats, like because I know that some streams, like when they get a super chat, they do something like fun or something. You know what I mean? I haven't figured anything out like that yet. But if you ever donate, it's always super appreciated, and I'll do my best to recognize it. If I'm in the middle of an explanation, I might not see it, but thank you so much. I really appreciate that, because it is actually thanks to the regular viewers, the people that donate, the mods. There's also channel memberships. I will say this. What I was going to say is it's thanks to all those people that I'm still doing this. I will say this. The best ways to help the channel are picking up courses on my website. Super chats are really good, like with what Luis did. I would say becoming a channel member is also great. It's just like a small monthly fee. It's to just kind of really contribute to these live streams and what we do here. And there should be a join button somewhere below this video if you want to check that out. So I don't like to plug that stuff real hard. Maybe I should plug it a bit more than I do. But anything is appreciated. Or even if you're just a regular viewer, you leave a comment or a like here and there. It's a huge help. It really, 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 it's little raindrops that add up, that fill up the bucket. And, when I was first starting out, I don't think I realized that like the little things, I mean, you can't get upset over every little thing that happens, but it's really like the little support that you get from people along the way is what makes it all possible. And that's what adds up in the long run, right? Anyway, I think that's all I had to tell you guys today. I'm a little disappointed that the sound didn't work with the piano as like I wanted, because I thought for sure I had it this time. But I'm going to keep working on that because it will improve the audio quality. And I think that is really important. So thanks for this, Tim. Appreciate this. You're very welcome, Shirley. Do you work with persons who write songs, Poetic Lifestyles? Unfortunately, I do not. I used to write songs a long time ago. I don't even know if I want to show any of them to you guys. Like 2010, before I started doing YouTube, actually, I got a little bit into audio production. Nothing like professional. I was just kind of like dabbling to see if that was something I wanted to do with my career or just my time. And then I started YouTube, and now this is like my passion project type of thing. I was like learning more about YouTube, so I think there's really good content ahead, and I'll maybe explain what's coming up in the next couple of months. But remember, guys, we are meeting again in 2 weeks. It's every other week for lives. I'll try to put it up on the channel banner soon, and then the other weeks are going to be pre-recorded videos. But know this: if I miss a video or I miss an upload, which could happen, people get sick or my voice might be like shot 1 week. That doesn't happen very often. Or I get invaded by bees. That has happened before. I might have to skip a week, but just know this, that the very next week, the goal is to get right back on track with it, because consistency, I think, is really what I'm going to shoot for here with everything. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today. I think it was a good lesson, regardless of little. I know you guys didn't seem to be bothered by it as much as I am, because, like I said, I spent like an hour or two messing with the sound, and I thought I had it perfect, but I do not. Thank you for your easy to understand lessons as usual, says Terry. Thank you for coming by today. Michael D. Lima, thanks for coming by. Luis, of course. Poetic Lifestyles. Michael, I think I just said that. Catherine Sams, thanks for coming by. Yesenia, Yesenia, sorry if I mispronounced you. Thanks for coming. There are rhythm lessons coming soon, probably more in the fall. But if you look on my channel page, there are already a lot of videos that you might want to check out. Greetings from Hong Kong, says Ida. Welcome. Glad to have you with us today. Like I said, a lot of new and returning names, which is amazing. Mark Kosman, thanks for coming today. We got Sylvia. And if I didn't get to your name, Catherine, I do apologize if I don't get to somebody's name, because there's always like one person. I had one person one time. This actually happened a couple times, where they left like a comment or something, and they were like the only comment that I skipped, and they got like really mad. They got mad. They I think they Facebook messaged me, and they like asked me if I didn't like them. And I was like, no, of course not. It was just that I was going through them and I just missed that person. So if I miss you, I'm sorry. I never do it on purpose, I promise. Unless you're trolling, then I probably do. If you're actively trolling me, I probably will ignore you on purpose. But I don't think anybody else here is doing that. But yeah, thanks everybody. Maple Bob, I love that name. I don't know why. Lita, Music, Shirley, Luis again. All right, I think I got Abe from the beginning. Sing, thanks for coming by. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you for this lesson. You're welcome. All right, everybody, leave a like if you liked it. It helps other people know that this is a quality lesson they can learn from as well. No matter what, thanks for coming by today. I really appreciate it. I didn't think about what to say ahead of time. We're concluded here. Thanks for the support from everybody. Again, no matter whether you're a regular viewer or you are a donator or what have you, buy courses over my website. Your patronage, I guess that's the right word, is much appreciated. And your student tutelage in the comments is much appreciated as well. So thanks, guys, for coming, and I'll see you real soon.